Are you on low income or perhaps you're on SNAP benefit, Supplemental Nutrition Assistant Program? Let's talk about some budget stretching ways that we could stretch our grocery budget even a little more further. Back in a minute. Good morning. Good morning. This is Jan from New York City. My channel name is Jan from New York City Saves Money. I truly love helping people to keep some more of their own hard earned money. Could that be you? You know, we've been facing some challenging times to say the least, as far as, inflationary prices go at the market, making grocery shopping even that much more of a little bit of a, well, challenge. I hate to use that word constantly, but it is more of a challenge, but we can do it. We can do it. And especially for folks who are receiving a supplemental nutrition assistant program known as SNAP, formerly known as food stamps back in the good old days. Just saying, but there are ways and there are ways. And if there is any part of our budget that we have much more flexibility than the rest of the budget, it is with our grocery shopping habits. I said, let me do a little bit of research. So I went over to the government site that offers some tips for people who are receiving these kind of benefits as far as nutritional shopping goes. Now, you may not like to eat this, but maybe you've never tried it. Try some different foods. Try it on a small scale, but they are definitely much more cost effective than, let's say, expensive proteins. But, like if somebody were to say to me, beans and rice, I would say, I'm not a beans person. But the truth be told, I do like a certain kind of bean in a can that's flavored really nicely. And it begins with letter B. I do like that one. That's the truth. I also enjoy lentils. So lentils come up a number of times on that site. Here's what I found interesting too upon my research of this. A few years ago, people were saying, negative things about canned foods. All of a sudden, lately, canned items are getting much more respect. I wonder why. Could it be because of the longer shelf life? Could it be that a person is getting more value using, let's say, canned fruit or vegetables as opposed to buying a bunch of fresh produce that does not get used in a timely manner? Then what ends up happening? The thing that we dread the most, right? Food waste. Don't like food waste. There was a show. I don't know if anybody remembers this. People were conducting an experiment. These people never were on SNAP or anything. They were like very young and they wanted to fulfill an experiment of which they pretended that their life was on the same number of dollars that the SNAP would allot. And they had to stretch their budget a few weeks. I don't know, I think it was a whole month. Oh, if I could only find that documentary somewhere and pull it up, let me tell you, I would definitely share it. But these young people, a husband and a wife couple, at first they thought, oh, piece of cake, I can handle this with just this X number amount of dollars. And they found themselves in the beginning time, okay, let's go to the supermarket. And they were unpleasantly surprised to find out the true challenges of, you have to get a little with it. Formerly they would just pick off anything off the shelf and whatever. But as part of the experiment, they had to survive the whole month on just, like a food stamp amount of money. Okay. They learned a bunch of things that normally they never did. One of them was they were literally counting their dozen eggs. Yep. They were finding themselves counting things. And I'll be honest with you, it is not a bad idea to really look a little bit ahead. If you're really on that strict of a grocery budget, counting some of the stuff that is like totally countable, like if you know that to use up a dozen eggs in 12 days is better than using up a dozen eggs in 6 days, then it stands to reason that you will only permit yourself with your grocery budget to use up one egg a day type thing. This is just an example. Or let's say there are those, those slices of cheese, the one that's, wrapped up individually that everybody's very familiar with, those American type slices. Some come in quantities of, I haven't seen the 12 one for a while. Maybe it still exists. I don't know. But I see the 16 and the 24. Then you have to figure out per unit price, which is a better deal. What's good about those cheeses is they last. I'm not saying they're the healthiest. I'm not saying they're the greatest, but for a person that's on a very, very low income thing, that's a great thing because it's stretchable, it's individually wrapped, and you do get your money's worth. But back to the experiment, they were craving like pies and cakes because back to that couple, they were used to having like desserts like without blinking an eyelash. They were also used to having more fresh produce in their life. As a matter of fact, this couple spoke to a person in the grocery store that was actually on SNAP at that time. That gentleman was on SNAP, and they asked the gentleman, "What is your greatest challenge, while you're doing this, while you've been receiving this?" And he said he finds himself only getting to eat fresh produce like the first 5 or 10 days after his stamp allotment was issued. Really, to everything there's a strategy. Now let's say a person, I'm not positive of the numbers because these numbers are general, but let's just use this number $250, okay, as a general number across the board. Let's say a person gets $250 in their SNAP allotment. Well, what's the difference to a person that's getting SNAP allotment $250 versus a person getting or taking $250 out of their own, resources, from their own earnings, et cetera, whatever. People have to budget. People have to budget, whether it comes out of the SNAP allotment, whether it comes from your grocery allotment, anyone, um, even people that have a higher income. There is a misnomer that people that who have a higher income, should have a could care less attitude. Some could care less to the tune of putting themselves in debt. Okay, and that's its own show. Honestly, it's about scaling. Let's get back to the lower income or SNAP recipient. Two suggestions, okay? It all depends on your circumstances and how you shop. Do you shop like in one place? Do you like centralize your shopping? Or do you find yourself like driving around all over the place to get a bargain? Now, a lot of people say, oh, I'm willing to drive all over the place to get that bargain. And maybe for that family, it works. But I wonder sometimes, is it always a bargain? Considering the price of gas these days, is it always a bargain to drive extra places just to save, 15 cents here or 20 cents there? I don't know. I cannot answer that, but that is something seriously to take into consideration as part of the overall shopping haul. Should a person cut down on their frequency of shopping? Now, this is something that I personally think is true. Plan ahead. Everything is before you even leave the house, before you even walk out the door. It's part of it. It's a really big part of it. Sit down and plan ahead. We are so blessed today. All we have to do is get on the very device that you're listening to me on and look around for the local sales in your area and then make that determination and plan your meals around the sale items. And don't buy things that are on sale just because they're on sale, but you don't use them. That doesn't make any sense to me at all. I'm just saying these are just all the little things. So this works for anyone, regardless if they're receiving SNAP or regardless if they're pulling it, directly from resources of their own device. Just saying, just saying. But getting back to the gentleman that said that he starts running low on the produce in the, after like the fifth or sixth day after he gets his SNAP, a great idea would be for the gentleman, and he said he does this actually. He takes advantage of canned fruit, canned vegetables, frozen stuff. This way, at least a person is receiving, the fruit and vegetables that they're getting. Is it the optimal best? Sometimes I personally prefer. Sometimes I personally prefer canned or frozen items, but that's just a matter of taste. Just get familiar with the most nutritious pack things and buy that at the lowest price. That will benefit your family. Cook once, feed more than once. This is great to budget stretch. Meal planning is essential. We'll talk more about meal planning in future upcoming videos. I truly hope that some of these suggestions help at least one person listening. And if you have anything to add to this as far as budget stretching for your groceries, please feel free to add that information in the comment section below. But I would really appreciate it if you would do the following. Have an amazing, fantastic day. Take good care of yourselves and your families. Bye bye.